but I do want to talk kind of to wrap this up. Is there a way back from this decision? And I do want to just start off by saying I think there is. And I think it's sooner rather than later, in my opinion. As I mentioned before, that this is being met with a ton of pushback, not just by the anti MLS, Euro snobs and USMNT dweebs, whatever. But even the diehard faithfuls are coming out saying this isn't a good choice. It's not being defended. MLS gets defended a lot by its diehard fans, and usually that's us. But today and over the last couple of days, that's not been the case. The people who defend it the most have come out and say, you know what? This isn't cool. We understand that the cup means more than just the league, blah, 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 blah. Right. But this is a similar reaction that came from the European Super League idea, right? Everybody pushed back. Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever, blah, 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 blah. They came up with the idea thinking that they would get some sort of support, and instead they got immense hate and pushback from it, and they pulled the idea away altogether. They also had leagues that were threatening sanctions to the teams that were going to leave, right? You'll never play in Europa League again or Champions League, whatever. And both of those are reasons why I think that they can reverse this choice, or at least make it short term. And the first reason is because of the pro league standards. If you want to be a Division I league in the United States, there is a clause that says you have to compete in domestic U.S. competitions, including the U.S. Open Cup. If the U.S. Soccer Federation threatens to remove Division I status from MLS, maybe they rethink their actions. Are they going to do that? I highly doubt it, because I'm sure there's some way that Don Garber comes in and says, yeah, we're going to still play under the same names, but we're just going to use all MLS Next Pro players, which is what was happening anyway. So I don't get why they're doing it. Anyways, on the second hand, MLS needs money. If people are canceling their Apple subscriptions and they're not going to get anything from League Cup, which is the whole comparison that they made, and they're not going to get anything from MLS games and sales and merchandise and all the things that we just went through, they're going to have to backpedal eventually to put teams back in, because they're going to need the money to survive. It was mentioned that MLS is going to reevaluate next year, and that gives me, again, I'll use the term cynic again. The cynic in me believes that there's a quid pro quo behind the scenes, that MLS sat down with U.S. President Cindy, I think it's Cindy Cohn, I think that's her last name, and basically laid out a list of demands saying, this is what you need to do to fix U.S. Open Cup before we even consider rejoining. You'll probably see a massive increase in the U.S. Open Cup quality, and suddenly MLS will come walking back into their life, and everything's all fine and dandy. Now it's worth my time. It's an awful look. But that's how I see this going. I'm not saying it's the right thing that should be happening. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty. And I'm not saying they're going to win any brownie points with anybody who is already kind of skeptical with MLS to begin. But that's the most logical way I see it going, unfortunately.
Well, so if MLS just comes back after the 2024 season, they come back in 2025, and nothing has changed from a U.S. Open Cup perspective or an MLS perspective, then what did they do all this for? Why did they back out in the first place? Why did they create all this outrage? It would be pointless, and it would be extremely stupid from an MLS perspective. I think at this point, unless you're backing out, unless you're reversing your decision before the season starts, I think they have to just commit to it at this point. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the right decision, but if you're going to make this statement and deal with this backlash, then you have to stick with the decision until the reasons that you backed out are addressed, whether that's internally within MLS, increasing roster spending, or whether that's USSF, increasing the productivity and the quality and the value of the cup. But otherwise, then you did all of this for nothing, and you just created outrage, and you probably hurt a lot of trust from a lot of diehard fans that you probably will never be able to recover. And if you just come back with no changes, then you did it for no reason. So I'm not saying that's necessarily the right way to go, but I think that is the way that they will have to, I feel like, approach this if they're not going to listen to the feedback or the criticisms that fans are giving from this decision.
You want to put on a tinfoil hat here, ready for this one?
Yeah.
this is MLS's way of helping the lower leagues because
Yeah, you mentioned
the
that one earlier, but
yeah.
I want to hear you expand on this one because
So
I'm kind of I'm building my tinfoil hat right now.
my
So
tinfoil hat is on. I'm gonna wear it like this, and here's what it sounds like. That looks like I'm deranged. Um, winner of the Open Cup still has a spot in 2024. If a USL championship or USL one team wins and travels to freaking Honduras or whatever to play in the Champions, instant fan support behind that. Oh, rah, rah, rah. The league's great. Influx of money. Money builds stadiums. Money loosens roster rules. Bang, they're instantly up there. And now MLS is like, oh, you're a legitimate second league. Let's talk. All sorts of combined. This is big brain Don Garber coming through in the clutch to fix and save U.S. soccer. That's what this is.
let me tell you, my friend, consider this my tinfoil hat. I'm in. I'm in on the conspiracy theory.
I'm telling you, I'm so glad I'm the one who makes the clips because if somebody clips that out of context, that's a bad look.
I hope someone does clip that out of
Me too.
context. That'd be so
Just for
funny.
the fun of it, I'd love to see it.
You should clip that out of context if I say something stupid.
All right, so here's how I'm gonna end this. Unless you have other points you want to make on some of the things we talked about, I don't want to silence you here. I have talked a lot.
No, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Yeah, I just had so much time to think about this and try and put together my feelings for it, which is why
Actually, I will.
you're
I'll
gonna
ask you
cut
this.
me off after you said you had nothing else to say.
Yes, I am. I
Go
am.
ahead.
If you, in your honest opinion, when we get to the start of the season, and I can't remember if it's February or March, the start of the regular season, how much of this current outrage against them pulling out of the U.S. Open Cup do you think will still be in play at that point?
If we continue with the information we have right now, tons. I think you see banners. I think you see signs. I think you see shirts. I think you see protests. I think you see all across the board. I don't think it gets past week 2, personally. I think they make their peace. I think they say what they have to say. Those who are going to stick around and watch the team are going to stick around and watch the team. Those who aren't, and we're just going to go about our way. And it's going to die in the news cycle, right? As things usually do. We won't hear another thing about it for, we'll probably get a couple more angry, upset tweets for the next day or two. Christmas is going to come around. Everybody's going to be celebrating their family, and then they're going to come back for New Year's, and they're going to be celebrating with their friends. And come January 2nd, it's back burner stuff because we're into the off season, and the people who do what we are doing are going to continue to do. I don't think anybody's come out and said, I'm not going to do my podcast anymore, or I'm not going to write my articles, or I'm not going to do. They've said they're not going to go to games, which is fair. If you're upset that they've picked one over the other, you're not going to go to those games. But I think you're still going to see fine attendance at regular MLS season games because that's not what they picked over the US Open Cup. In my opinion, I could be completely wrong, and that's okay. But that's what I think is going to happen. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I think I'm pretty aligned with you. I think most people are going to have a lot of outrage right now. I honestly feel like, from MLS's perspective, if you're Don Garber, you timed it really well. You got it right before the holidays. People are going to go to the holidays. They're going to, a number of people are going to probably forget about it. Obviously not everybody. There's going to be US Open Cup sickos who remember this for a lifetime and will never forget. But I think people will start to forget about it. Transfers are going to come in. People are going to get excited about the team again. And I honestly think people are going to forget about it, I would say, until probably the cup starts up again. And, you get a little bit into the later rounds and there's a bit more news on it going on. And, that might rekindle the fire a little bit. But I think by the time you hit MLS playoffs, I think it'll be old news at that point. And That's not me saying that this is what I want to happen. I think this is what is going to happen.
Totally fair. And I think that's exactly it. You're here. Announcement comes up, you're here. You're max level. Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Then you start reading and you think about it and you're like, okay, understand it. Still not happy with it, which is where I'm at. Not happy with it. Think it's a terrible decision. Do understand why the decision was made. Still not happy with it, but not shocked. By the time New Year's comes around, we're down here. MLS is back burner, whatever. New transfers are coming in. Ooh, my team's getting good. Ooh, my team's looking exciting. Emil Forsberg through the door. New coach through the door. We're linked to Jamiro Montero. Awesome. I've got so much hype for this season coming up. As we come up to Champions League, people are going to watch some of the Champions League games, which also people don't throw a fit about the Champions League, even though you know the amount of sketchy streams I had to find when Red Bull were playing in this Champions League. Nobody throws a fit about that. Anyways, you'll get to there. You'll have a few people like, oh yeah, like just remember the person who's playing in this won the U.S. Open Cup, and that's not happening anymore. Then people will be like, oh, and then we'll take a drop down, and then we'll be like a week before season starts, and everybody's be like, don't forget that we're still angry about this, and everybody's gonna come up, they're gonna do their protest, whatever, and then 2 weeks in, they'll probably do a maybe there'll be a walkout, maybe there'll be a protest of going to game, whatever it may be. It'll be different for each individual club, but at the end of the day, it won't go as deep as possible because, as we've mentioned, the meaning of the cup doesn't hit as deep for people who are just joining the league recently. It's just the way it is. We aren't agreeing with it. We aren't saying it's the right thing to do, or if it's we're not saying we're happy about it. We are accepting reality and moving forward. I do not believe this is a decision that should have been made. I do not believe that this is a decision that is a good decision for a lot of things. There were different ways to change this schedule congestion or lessen games on your team. They chose the wrong one. People make mistakes. It happens. They can come back from it.